Yes. Well, for the Ondo State gubernatorial elections, I just want to say for a start that let us pray that this is going to be one election in which we're going to have all the technological devices that are relevant working optimally, so that when voters approach the electoral officers, things work according to plan. They go to the electoral officer and the BVAS is working, and at the end of the elections, the IRM also works. Now, those are technical devices recognized by law and by regulation. So we're not talking about what is at the whim or the caprices of the electoral body, INEC, or the competing political parties. We're saying that these things should work so that we are sure that at the end of it, whoever decides to even go to court will have very little to contest. Having said that, I think that the voters themselves should ignore members of the political parties who try to lure them into doing unconventional and undemocratic acts. We should always remember that the electoral laws provide for punishment for those who commit electoral crimes or misconduct. Therefore, everyone who is participating today, whether as voters or as contestants or as members of the political parties, should ensure that no matter what members of the House of Assembly or National Assembly tell them, they stick to the rules, vote, and as soon as you're done with your voting, leave the polling unit so that the votes can then be counted properly, collated, and we're sure that we get free and fair elections. We are tired of a situation where elections are held and the comments we receive after that are so damning. And people wonder, did we actually have an election or did we not? That's particularly is my view. And I'm sure that with the concentration of electoral material, personnel, and security officers, we would have an election today in Ondo State that we'll be proud of.
Let's look a bit at that results management process yet again. What the electoral law stipulates is that collation be done at registration area, ward level, local government, and state level for declaration of results. That would be the INEC office. But we've seen in our recent past complaints, particularly by our opposition parties, that collation was being done in areas other than these designated areas. Now, should we be looking at, innocently, at accidental cases of security concerns, or should we be looking closely, to question why any other area other than these designated areas, according to the electoral law, should be serving as collation centers?
Thank you. So the truth is, no matter what laws you put in place, those who determine that they're going to circumvent those laws will do so. What we must start asking ourselves is whether you are an electoral umpire or you're a participant or a sympathizer. When you breach these electoral laws, you should be punished. And until when we begin to punish people for these electoral violations, electoral law violations, we will continue to have people saying that it was a mistake. How do you collect elections in places other than those recognized and designated by law? First of all, if you count the votes at the polling units appropriately, and I think we have about 4,000 polling units in those states. If you count the units, the votes at the respective polling units, and they're collated there and then, honestly, with technology, before the close of work, we should all know what the results are. But we're not authorized to announce unless, of course, you are the electoral officer designated to do that. So if the agents of the political parties are present at the polling units, and those results are declared in their presence, they, without much ado, can determine what has gone on. So where there has been any manipulation at the ward level or local government level or at the state level, it should be very obvious. I recall that in 1993, when we had elections with the option A4, by the time the election was over, most people already had the figures. So it was we were just waiting for the electoral body to do the formal announcement. But indeed and in truth, we all knew what the numbers were. There is nothing stopping us from knowing the numbers here in this situation, especially where you will have the beavers that accredits voters who come before the electoral officers. So let us agree that we as citizens will determine that no one is going to disenfranchise us, and we shall not allow anyone to take our votes away from us. Everyone has to be very vigilant, and the agencies, the security agencies, have been in this situation. They must not allow things to go under their noses unless, of course, they're complicit.
So the Electoral Act says that polling unit results are collated and then results are declared. Then it goes to the ward level and then to the local government. There's a sequence clearly written by law all the way to the when the announcement will be made state by state when they are being called out. But we've seen issues around a flouting of this process leading to litigation. In fact, one is a subject of litigation as far as this particular process is concerned. And that is where people are worried that this is where the politicians do their dirty game of, undermining the entire process. Of course, when the results are announced, the winner will say it was fair, the one that lost says it wasn't fair and all of that. So it feels like, how do we, beyond legislation, and I know this may be a tough one, beyond legislation, because the law is there, the police is present to protect INEC officials, but we see these things happen. How do we empower INEC, I don't know how, to strengthen them to be a bit more courageous, to uphold the tenets of democracy by following through with their guidelines at the end of the day? Because it looks like laws are not enough. Senior Advocate, that's for you.
I think laws are enough. The question is, are we willing to obey these laws? And are we willing to punish those who flout the laws? That is the question we should ask ourselves. And you're talking about courage on the part of INEC officials. Is it only about courage? Courage to do the right thing, or courage to say no to those who ask them to do the wrong things? Don't forget that INEC also has ad hoc officials. I mean, people who are not permanent staff, who I have no reason to think that they would come forth to do the wrong thing. But then again, the stakes are very high when it comes to elections in Nigeria. And I don't know why we think the stakes should be this high. But the truth is, the idea of a winner takes all is one of the reasons. So INEC itself has been criticized by political parties, has been criticized many times by contestants, has been criticized by citizens of this country about their own involvement in these things that mar and cast slur on our electoral processes. Now, what we find is that when the election is over, whoever does not win goes to the tribunal to ask for a declaration of the results in his favor. But we hardly find people saying, well, I have lost, but I want to challenge the electoral procedure, the process that went on. Who was in charge here? Whose direction of duty can we identify? And if we are able to do so, why don't we ask that such people should be prosecuted? If you have a few who are prosecuted and are put in jail, I'm sure a lot of people will begin to think twice. But a lot of people think, well, we can do this. Then if they are not happy with the election results, go to court. Go to court to do what? We should not make it a habit to have elections determined by the courts all the time. We should be able to have elections like it was done in America recently. The results are out. People know that, well, we didn't expect this, but this is what the results are. and that's it. We wait for the next sign. We should not continue to allow people to do as they please with our elections, bringing us in disrepute. And do you know what happens? When an election cycle comes forth and it's done, people are unhappy. A lot of people are unhappy until the next election. So you find a lot of people who are unhappy on social media or unhappy in discussions, neighborhoods. We cannot continue to live our lives like this. If electoral officers are wrong, let them be brought to book. If agents are wrong, let them be punished. If voters are wrong, let them face the law. Until when people begin to face the law with the laws that we already have and regulations as stipulated, we'll be going round and round in circles. It's not about having new laws. It's not about that at all, in my opinion. Thank you.